This episode of This Week in MMO is sponsored by Shutterstock.com. With over 20 million high-quality stock photos, illustrations, vectors, and video clips, Shutterstock helps you take your creative projects to the next level. For 30% off on your new account, just go to Shutterstock.com and use offer code GAMEBREAKER5.
GameBreaker TV.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to Last Week in MMO, episode 142 for May 6th, 2013. You're watching Game Breaker. I'm Gary again, and today Elder Scrolls Online gets a new trailer. Neverwinter has practically launched with open beta, and Defiance has all the accounts, all that more, plus your viewer questions. But first, Editor-in-Chief over at Zam.com, suffering from a massive sinus infection, but he loves you so much, he is here. Mr. Scott Hawks, how are you, sir?
I love you. I'm okay. I'm here. How are you?
Good. Sound a little bit better than you.
I'm sounding like Harvey Feinstein this week.
It's nice. I like it.
If anybody knows who that is.
It's a radio.
In a world beyond time.
And joining us, as always, Winter and Forum, Mr. Jason Winter. How are you, sir?
Scott brings the radio voice, I bring the radio face.
There you go. Just combine the two and we've got a hit show. Why haven't we thought of this?
For the radio, whatever, not this crap we're doing.
All right, let's talk about, we're catching up on last week, recording this on Mondays. We can talk a little bit about what went on last week. Elder Scrolls Online got a bit of a lore-heavy trailer last week. We can't actually watch it because of YouTube. Yep, you know the YouTubes, flagging accounts.
Great job, YouTube.
Yes.
Thanks.
Hate you.
Well done.
But visually, it was, I'm sure a lot of you have probably seen it out there. It was a fly-through of Cold Harbor. That was the area. Looked nice. Nothing mind-blowing. A lot of nice scenery, though. But I wanted to bring up this especially because I wanted to get some input from everybody. You know what I do? I do some audio here. Let's play and listen to the audio really quick of this.
And there's an ancient prophecy in the Elder Scrolls that says that the Soulless One will thwart Molag Bal's plan. And in fact, the player is the Soulless One. At the very beginning of the game, Molag Bal steals their soul from them. And during the course of the game, they're trying to get it back.
In order to turn...
All right, I'm going to stop there. I have questions. I have questions, and I need an interpreter because I really want... so this is a very lore-heavy trailer. It's all about the lore. It's some of the writers, things like that. And so here's what he says here. He says there's an ancient prophecy in the Elder Scrolls that says the Soulless One will thwart Molag Bal's plan, and in fact, the player is the Soulless One. Okay, I'm with you so far. At the very beginning of the game, Molag Bal steals their soul from them, and during the course of the game, they're trying to get it back. I am far and away from being an Elder Scrolls lore expert, but I immediately went and asked everybody I could. Seriously, why would he seal the prophecy of his death by stealing the soul of? I don't even want to get into the fact that he's stealing everybody's soul. Whatever, it's an MMO. I get it. We got a suspension of disbelief. The writing's got to be what it is. But can somebody? I put this on our forums. I really started asking questions. I was like, maybe we're missing something here. Maybe there's something within the lore that I don't know about because I really want to understand this. But it's only it's a 2-minute and 5-second video, and I'm completely confused as if there's a prophecy that says Molag Bal's fate is going to be he's going to basically die by the hand of the Soulless One. Why, in a derpiest move in all of history, would he be the one to seal the fate of his own prophecy of death and steal your soul?
It's like saying that you're going to get killed by somebody with a sword and setting up a sword distribution center.
Yeah, here, let me sharpen that sword for you. I'm going to die by sword. Here, I'm a blacksmith and I can sharpen this thing. Am I missing something? No, I've been confused by this all week.
All right, here's my defense of it, sort of.
Okay, here we go.
All right, because I am a little bit of an Elder Scrolls lore nut. The Elder Scrolls themselves are really weird. that exist outside of space and time, and no one. You have to go blind and insane to read them. So you have to go blind to read them. That's how wacky they are. So my guess is that the guy speaking is speaking from the omnipotent role of a guy who designs the lore. Molag Bal himself probably doesn't know what's in the Elder Scrolls because very few beings do.
Do you think they should have
So my
explained
guess
that?
is that.
Couldn't they have explained that? And then
trailer.
but I really want to know because the way they've released it to me, I don't. No, they released a 2-minute trailer. Because the flip side of that is, why is he stealing souls? There must be a reason. Like, what is he doing with them?
Gotta catch them all.
The way that the problem is the way it's introduced is that the idea that the prophecy is central to the story, and so the prophecy is important. So if nobody knows about the prophecy, then it's not important to the people, those who the antagonist and your character. So if you know about the prophecy, then you would think that this incredibly powerful being would, if just you're a little nobody running around. So either nobody knows about it, and at that point, then does it matter, really?
Maybe only
and
the
it's
few
just a
blind
narrative point.
people know about it.
A few blind mad people who are in nut houses who are screaming about, oh, he's been a bit daft about stealing all these souls, isn't he? Yeah, I don't know.
And when I started asking questions, I got all kinds of responses of a lot of people sort of interjecting. Well, maybe it's this, and maybe it's this,
Yes.
and what if you know time and space, and what if he's taking souls and he's safeguarding them in some chamber because that's. And it's like, okay, but I appreciate everybody trying to interject their own opinions and writing the story for ZeniMax.
You shouldn't have to contort yourself to explain stuff.
You shouldn't have to contort yourself, but I shouldn't have to watch a 2-minute video and actually be confused by it because I literally just we stopped it and everybody in Gabriel was just like, how does that make sense? And we were just like, it doesn't make any sense really from the 2 minutes they've given us. I don't know. So everybody understands Molag Bal's plans will be stopped by the Soulless One. That's correct. And we're all on the same page.
By
The
the
Soulless
way.
One.
Yeah, that's
One.
the other thing.
Yeah, we're all that one. apparently.
We're a couple of million soulless ones.
I will seriously overlook that because I get it. It's MMO.
Okay, I'm not, but you.
I know you're not going to, but I'll let that go because I get MMO writing is a little bit weird, but I just don't understand. So at the very beginning, Molag Bal is going to take away your soul. So you start the game somehow. You find that he's taking your soul.
Let's get back to that in a bit as well.
And you are on this journey to get your soul back again, basically. But when you meet him, I don't know. There's just so much confusion. There's so much confusion. The derpiest villain of the Year award goes to Molag Bal. That's what I say.
So you've not got your own soul. So in a universe where soul is a tangible thing and it's important, unless your soul is, I don't know, like a cover slip or something that, well, it's nice to have, but it's not going to really affect you intrinsically as being an individual being. Because if you got your soul gone, aren't you just like a big drooling idiot? Sort of like, couldn't care less about anything because you haven't got your soul, so revenge isn't really going to be top of your list of things to do. I don't know how souls work really in the Elder Scrolls universe.
I'm not really sure how souls work.
The soul's a
Not
different
really sure.
thing.
It's just an add-on.
Just the concept of what a soul is kind of like, it's where your sort of animus comes from. Like it's your feelings, your love, your passions, and everything else come from like your soul. And so if that's gone, why do you give a crap about carrying it back? Because you don't care about anything anyway.
You don't care about anything.
No. So
maybe he's got a Horcrux.
That's
seven Horcruxes. There you go.
Yeah, you gotta go and like walk around.
Murder
with
your
some
parents.
really annoying English teenagers for a while.
There you go.
That's what it is.
I don't know. What do you think, Jason? You seem to be a little bit. You know more about the lore of Elder Scrolls than the two of us. So, is this just? Do you feel like this is just another case of like writing in MMOs doesn't matter? Or are you willing to overlook it? What do you think the average gamer thinks? It's not like the genre of MMOs is really known for its writing because there's a lot of kind of crazy holes and things that they have to patch up the way the game structure is. But I don't know. I don't really know if I have an excuse for this 2-minute video. Like I'm trying to find the answer. Like I searched and I can't. I'm just still doesn't make any sense to me.
Well, I mean, that's sort of, like I said, it talked about the Elder Scrolls being these crazy things of time and space that doesn't really apply to reality or whatever. And in reality, they probably are just a way for the designers of the Elder Scrolls games to put in crazy stuff like this. Like, oh, we can't figure out how to make this sort of time and space thing work. It's in the Elder Scrolls. There we go. That's how.
Hey, there it is. There it is.
But if your Deus Ex Machina doesn't make any sense in itself, like if the whole thing about it is that it doesn't really make any sense, then using it to apply sense, like I love the whole idea of Malak Bal is basically pulling the entire planet through a dimensional rift. That's the idea. That's what these dark angles come down that pull the entire planet through. That's a cool idea. That's a big concept. That's fun. But then, as I say, the idea of the individual player having their soul taken, and then why that's important, as in you're going to be the person who destroys Malak Bal because you are the soulless one.
Right. Why is he searching for the soul? Why is he taking all the souls away? Like, is there some sort of power he?
Well, it might be. Well,
or is he trying to?
Like that's his like the way that he powers his plane. His corner, like he's got a plane in Oblivion. His section of Oblivion. That's his lair. And so, in that plane of existence, perhaps he needs these souls to generate his own power. Okay, fair enough.
His power grid. Okay.
I'm with it. Yeah. So
it's like the Matrix. You got everybody in there.
If you had like everybody in your village's soul ripped out of them, and you're seeking revenge for your family and all the rest of it, and to get theirs returned, but your own kind of seems confusing. And having it as being the soulless one, where that means anybody. Like, that's like hot. Like, how many thousands has you already done that to? That could be any of them.
Well, that's not like a whole nother thing, which I know, Scott, I know you have a problem with the fact that they're sort of writing this story with the perspective of, you're the soulless one. A single player is going to save them.
It's a single player RPG story arc.
Right. But as soon as you log in, every single player is that person. So
yes,
yeah.
It's just my only issue with it is it kind of reinforces, like when I played it, and it reinforces that. When I was playing it, I was like, "This is fun," and it was fun for me and Richie to be running around in a little group and doing stuff. But I was like, "Wow, we're not sharing any of the quests or anything," which is weird for an MMO. We're not seeing the same NPC actions, even though we were in the same room. That's odd. So then with this as well, it seems, that's reinforcing this idea that there's a lot of single-player game going on, even if you're with somebody in a party playing the game together at the same time. So even the overarching story kind of reinforces that concept.
Jason, how do you feel like Elder Scrolls in general? How do you feel like the lore and the writing has been generally in the past? I mean, have they really been something that they've been totally known for? Do you feel like the Skyrim and everything was really that solid?
They have some. I mean, they have some good points. I mean, sometimes you do delve into your fairly generic fantasy of great heroes and dragons and so on. You've seen that in Skyrim and so on. But in terms of like all the backstory they've got, I mean, I've been on sites that are like just full historical sites. Here's a list of events that happened during the Second Era, and this king and this queen and these things. This war happened here and this battle there. So they've got a lot of stuff there. Maybe it's not always as deep as you might hope. Maybe that's where some of this comes from. It's a lot, but it's not necessarily amazingly well written or that incredibly interesting. It has their good moments, but yeah, there's a lot of that.
I'm not like a huge lore nut whatsoever. Like I'm not. Like we do conspiracy craft and I'm learning about World of Warcraft, but I don't like go and search it out and read it. And like I'm usually not a lore nut. But I do feel like it's incredibly important from a game design standpoint to have this solid. Even if I don't fully know the lore as a gamer, I feel like the company behind the game really should, because it's going to drive so many decisions about how the game works and plays and stories and what different characters are going to do. And if there's holes in that, I may not be following the story completely 100%. I don't know. I really am hoping that we're all completely confused and there's an explanation for this. And I hope that they don't just like write in some like odd explanation just because they can.
I think at the moment, because there's almost a vacuum of information to a great degree. So when we have something like this come out, I mean, the video that we see is actually just a short bit of footage that we were shown at the studio, but it was in between all the other stuff. So it wasn't like it was laser focused as being a thing. It was just, okay, here's an overall sort of framework of what the story's going to be about. So, but when you present it on its own, just as that, and that's all you've seen really for a while, it's going to get focused on like with laser accuracy. And as we are, you rip in every little tiny inflection of it apart.
Well, yeah, they don't give us much, and they give us exactly. 2 minutes. And in that 2 minutes, how did nobody at the company, when they watched this video and they passed it around and they said, "Hey, this is final. How did nobody say like, "Hey, this kind of doesn't fully make a ton." Like, if you're on the outside and maybe you don't know this, like maybe there is some bit of information we don't know. How did somebody not pose a red flag and be like, "This kind of doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Somebody's going to talk about this."
That's why I gotta think that there's more to it than what we're getting in a 2-minute video.
Oh, definitely there is. I mean, and the other thing is the story actually as you're playing the game, the characters, the interaction. There's a lot of it's really well written, and something I noticed. And I noticed these things. Believe me, in MMO, it was well written, and it had personality, and it was fun. So it's not that what we've seen is reflective of the quality of the story of the game and how well written. It's just not. But the problem is because that's what we're getting. That's all we can sort of respond to. And so when you throw something out there that I'm sure to them is just, hey, it's just an overall framework of how the story's going to sort of progress, it doesn't take, perhaps, from their perspective, quite the importance that it might from ours.
Really? But you really think that putting out a piece of media like this to hundreds? Wait, how many viewers does it have? This video had 300 and almost 5,000 views on it right now. There's over 300. How could this is super important. Every word that goes into this video should make sense, mean something, be exactly what they want to communicate to us, because it's important, especially in a high fantasy game like this where people are lore freaks.
Yes.
So there might be more story.
I'm not disagreeing with you.
I mean, I'm really excited about this game. Don't get me wrong.
Their PR and marketing? No, not Elder Scrolls Online.
Yeah, we've seen some things before. Again, I am super excited for Elder Scrolls Online. Like, I mean, it is the next big MMO that I'm super, super, super excited for. And I want to see this game be great. Just when I see stuff like this and I look at it and I go, wow, I've only got 2 minutes of information to dissect this week for This Week in MMO, because we do a show on this stuff and we're obviously going to talk about it. We're going to break apart everything they possibly said in that 2 minutes of, footage that they gave us. And we're just like,
we are never satisfied.
Short-circuiting.
Picky little bitches, aren't we?
And are we? No, honestly, are we? Because that was my. Are we? Do you really think we should we just overlook this and just be like, oh, it's okay?
No, just you're right. And then we do see a 2-minute video, and we like analyze every one of the 120 seconds, because I know it's all we've got. I know we don't get that.
But
much
it's like a major plot point. Like in those two paragraphs of text, he explains basically encapsulates the entire sphere of the game to you, of like why you're playing this game, who the bad guy is, and what your journey is, and it makes no freaking sense.
He could have just slotted in one line that says, "But Molag Bal doesn't know about the prophecy," and then you just throw that in there, and that would have kind of at least made it decent.
Unknown to Molag Bal, by stealing your soul, he has sealed his own fate.
Yeah, there you go.
Done.
No, because when I posted this on our forums, asking the Gamebreaker peeps, like, hey, I jumped on there, I made a post on our Gamebreaker forums, and I said, look, I don't know much of the backstory about Elder Scrolls. I don't follow the lore. Here's the way I'm reading it. Can somebody please educate me? And I got post after post after post of people going like, well, maybe it's this. Maybe it's this. Maybe it's this.
I'm going. No,
and I'm like, except Scott going like that.
Yeah.
And again, I said, like, I appreciate everybody like kind of trying to come up with their own interpretation of what it might be and filling in the holes. But man, there's holes. It scares me.
I said that when people defend writing like that, and we're going to talk about defines soon, often they'll say, hey, but it's good if you leave things for the reader. No, it is very good if you set up anticipation and expectation for the reader or the audience or whatever on what's going to happen, and they're trying to guess at things. But when you put things in that don't make them sense themselves, and then hope that somebody comes up with a reason to explain it, that's not the same thing. That's not good writing. That's just that's plot problem.
Hopefully, we hear more on this subject. I'm hoping. Watch, they're going to come back and give me like a whole dissertation on like Here's the whole story. This is why it works. On a more positive note, Elder Scrolls Online is actually going to be playable at Gamescom. So if you guys are heading over to Germany for Gamescom, that's August 22nd to the 25th. It's going to be playable. So confirmed. Elder Scrolls Online is going to launch sometime after August 25th. That has been confirmed. Internet fact.
So the 26th.
Shocking.
Probably not the 26th. What are you guys all expecting real quick before I move on? October release date? October, November for Christmas?
December the 29th.
Oh, you're going over past Christmas, huh?
On the over-under, I would go over October. I'd go late. I'd go November or December.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you. I'll go on the over October as well.
You would think the prime is usually sort of like third week of November is what you want to sort of aim for the pre-holiday purchase beginning. But whether they'll hit that remains to be seen.
It does. All right. I want to talk about some Wildstar, but first I want to tell you guys about a brand new sponsor I'm super, super excited about having them on board, and that is Shutterstock.com. I use Shutterstock all the freaking time. I love Shutterstock. If you guys don't check it out, they have all kinds of stock photos, vectors, video, all kinds of stuff, footage. And right now, you can use promo code GameBreaker5 on checkout, and you're going to get 30% off on brand new accounts. And it's funny, we're putting together a bunch of new websites, and a lot of people are like, how do you guys put together websites, and how do they look so professional? And that's kind of the secret. We use Shutterstock. So basically, if you guys are looking at, you had a website or something, you want to like find like, great artwork, or like here, like right here, right? I recently viewed this. I was looking for like icons for like shields for our menu system on our new website, right? I don't have time to make this stuff, nor do we don't have any money, so we can't hire anybody. Just go to Shutterstock.com, search for some shields, and look. Get a whole awesome set of shields. You take these out, throw them on. There's your menu system. This actually, I want to show you guys this. This is awesome. This is brand new. Well, somewhat brand new to Shutterstock. I use this all the time. It's called the Shutterstock Labs thing. And like, if I go to this instant, you need inspiration. You're trying to figure stuff out. So I'm working on the Gamebreaker Nation site right now, which is the new thing that we're launching. And I was like, man, we need like a good image. I want to create something here. And I go into this and I typed, let's see, Fantasy Castle. Let's see what happens. And it's like, it just brings back all kinds of cool stuff. I mean, you just bring it, it's like, awesome images. You can view them, put them in light boxes, save them out. Great way to find inspiration. Just put in keywords and kind of scroll through things and find stuff. Awesome artwork. And basically download the artwork, and it's all, you don't want to steal people's artwork, So this is great. You go to Shutterstock, you make an account, and you can use all of this for different reasons, whatever kind of creative project you have, a website or a video thing, or maybe you're editing something you need some footage for. Awesome stuff. Just go over to Shutterstock.com, use promo code GameBreaker5 on the checkout, and you're going to get 30% off, which I do believe it's their largest discount they've ever done with anyone. I believe. Pretty sure that's true. Check it out today. Go to Shutterstock.com, use GameBreaker5, GameBreaker5 over at the Shutterstock. All right, let's talk about some Wildstar. So Carbine's Jeremy Gaffney wrote a very interesting post over on the Wildstar forums. So he's talking about like, when you're talking about MMOs and stuff, the 1% of the players at the very top of the game, are doing hardcore raids and talking about the PvP ladders and all that kind of stuff. So in context of that, this is what Jeremy thinks about the 1% at the top of the food chain of the game. He says the 1% are pretty vocal. If they report back to the 99% that the Elder game sucks, guess what? Lots of people leave. Why bother leveling up if no love was put into the very top content? We devs are often the 1%. If you make a game you don't love, it's pretty damn hard to make it good. We want a game we want to play too. And I mean, how often have we seen top players reach an endgame reporting there's nothing to see here and a game dying? We've seen this time and time again. We've been talking for so long about how important that 1% is because they are very, 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 very vocal. They
I wonder how much of that impact of the game dying was due to that 1% as opposed to a decent number of people. Because we talk about, I think we kind of talked about this last week even. We said there's that incredibly crazy super hardcore group that's going to be through everything in like 3 days. You're never going to satisfy that. No way. You just have to kind of move on from them. But I think a decent amount of pretty hardcore players, at least 10 to 20% or so, in a month they get to roughly the end. And I think from them, and general in MMOs in general, it's not that hard to level up. So I think people are a little easier. They have a little easier time viewing it for themselves as opposed to just listening to what everybody else is saying.
It's not to me. It's not the 1%, and them getting there quick and keeping them happy. It's when the 1% get there within a week and find that there's nothing there, then they make it clear to the rest of the gaming populace that there's nothing to aspire to. So when they're aware of that, so they'll hear. Let's use the prime example, and that's Star Wars: The Old Republic. And what happened was people got to the end game and said, the end game's not really here yet. Everyone else leveled the way up, and they heard that, and like, well, some people would have responded badly and said, well, if that's the case, I don't like this game anymore, or they would have leveled to the end and then had their own worries confirmed from what had already been said. So, to me, it's not as much that if the 1% leave, your game dies. It's that if the 1% get there and find out that there's nothing there, then they report back, and then everyone else finds out that there's nothing to aspire to beyond what they're already doing. And that's when the game's in trouble.
I mean, I agree with that, but the thing is, I don't know if you're ever going to not have a 1%. I don't care how much you do put in there. Like, that 1% who ends up hitting that wall after, say, a week, okay, with next game, maybe it'll be 2 weeks. But they are still the players that just won't stop. Like, they will not stop. They're just going to keep going until they hit that. They're finished, and then they're still going to say the same thing they would have said a week ago.
Sure.
I mean, I think you can make arguments for both sides. I mean, I think what Jeremy's really trying to encapsulate is his view. I think is definitely strong, and it's definitely in the right place of their thought process of that they know that needs to be fleshed out in there. There can't be nothing there.
There is a small minority that gets to that point after a pretty quick time. I think again, I like to think I'm moderately intelligent, and most people listening to this are. When you hear about those people that get there in 3 days and say there's nothing, we all just kind of look at them as, yeah, whatever, guy, you're crazy. You've been playing for like 28 hours a day or something like that. I'm going to at least wait until I get there or until someone I know gets there or whatever. So
but I don't know.
I think that's a little more influential.
Yes, but I don't know. But I don't know if, like, I think there's probably a lot of. I think there's a lot of players out there who, and they're not. It's not that they're unintelligent people, but they may hear about a game. Maybe they didn't know too much about it. Maybe the first thing they do is like, hey, somebody said so-and-so about this game. It's supposed to be okay. And then you go over to the forums. Maybe you look at the forums. And if that front page of forums is just like, there's nothing here. There's no content. I am bored. And all you see are posts of people like disgruntled and pissed. It permeates. And then you're just like, oh, this doesn't look that great. And move on. I'll find something else. So
it's about perception, essentially. It's about what perception does that end game or elder game or whatever the hell it's been called this week. What perception does that generate with the players who played first? They're the ones who are your initial basic public relations. They're the ones who are going to be broadcasting what they think the game is like. So that's mainly what the importance of that is, rather than say 1%. And it's less than 1% who will be getting and playing like raiding to the serious hardcore raiding within like the first week. That's but even then, even if they get to that within a week, they're not going to be completed because they're not going to all be completely geared up or whatever within that first week, unless you're insane and you allow a raid to gear up within a week, and then frankly I don't know what you're doing making an MMO anyway. But it's not like it's just simply a case of if you've got things like raids set up, they need to be quality, they need to be enjoyable.
Here's a thought.
The reason is just so it gives a good impression for the people who won't be there for a while yet.
Here's a thought, because you could make arguments on both sides. Should they? 1% is a fraction of the player base, but they're very vocal and they're very loud and they do make a big stink. But here would be and this is like very broad strokes I'm speaking in, not like specifically. But if you kind of cater to that 1% and you take care of them, won't the rest sort of fall in line?
Yeah.
Like if you can kind of make that 1% happy, won't the other 99% behind them who are taking a lot longer to get there be happy? Like wouldn't those steps have gotten you to the point to create all these systems and content in place that if you could make that small community really, really stoked about your game, I feel like the rest of people are just going to fall in line.
It's yes, and it's for one caveat and two reasons. The caveat is that people need to feel that there's something to do other than what that 1% is compelled to do when they get to the end game. So if you've got something to do other than raid intensely, then people don't care. Like, people who aren't into raiding need to have something else to do when they hit max level. So as long as they do have something to do, then most of them don't really care that much. It's when it's like, well, the 1%, they've got all this cool stuff to do, and I don't have anything. When resentment about that happens. The other thing is what it means is, and I did a piece on this today, because number 4 of his reasons behind doing this is the idea of the magic of the game and the sort of mystique of the game. And I like the fact that there is stuff in the game that I'm not going to see immediately, and it's something that's cool that's out there in the game world that I can't just turn up to easily. And B, I might not ever see even. I'm okay with that. And I know some people aren't. And as I said, that's why there's games that don't have that kind of progression in them anymore at all. That's why World of Warcraft's got looking for raid in it, is so people will get to see that content easily. But for me, it's a case of having a mystique, having places that are legendary in your world. They're like, these fable places that gamers whisper about and all the rest of it. Oh, I got to see this. I got to see that. I don't have a huge problem about that, as long as there's content for other people to play that's going to keep them happy and occupied. Now, the problem is how is it worth the expenditure on developing that content for a small amount of people to do that? But that's down to of course, the producer's decision. That's up to them. But I don't have a problem with having content in the game that is difficult and takes a lot of effort and a lot of teamwork, and without that you won't get to it, because that's aspirational.
Here's what you're talking about. Jeremy continued. He said this about the Mystique. He said, picture a game with no nigh inaccessible content. You can go anywhere the first month. There's nothing left unseen. From one perspective, maybe that's great. There's no earning your way into Counter-Strike maps, and that game's pretty damn fun. He says, but from another, I don't know, it's pretty tough to have a mysterious, huge feeling world when you can trivially do it all. And even in games I don't want to or don't have time to raid in, I'd like to know that there's more out there. That's arguable, though.
I'm right behind that.
I'm right behind him as well. I know you're taking. I kind of agree with this. I think that kind of a perspective is probably something that we've lost a lot in MMOs.
Because
the thing is, can you find that fire, that mystique? Like, that's not a very easy thing to latch onto, and I don't even totally know what that thing is.
But the thing is that what it is, and we've talked about this before with games like Guild Wars 2 and so on, is if everybody can have access to everything, like, what's the impetus to work towards it? What's that mystique? And I think that having things that are difficult to get to, that are not easily accessible, they have to, of course, be cool within themselves. You can't just get there.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Is
it's an open area that's got a few, chairs in it.
This goes far beyond just difficulty level. Like, if they just make things difficult to get to, that's not the answer of there's mysterious lands that are extremely difficult to get to, but they're utterly boring.
But I've talked about this before, this aspirational curve, and what you should have is that there has to be a payoff that's commensurate with the amount of effort that you put into it. So if you're not putting much effort into it at all and you're not really that bothered, you'll get something, but it's not going to be as great or cool as if you put a lot of effort into it and a lot of skill into it. So it doesn't always have to be time, it can be about skill. So if you have that, then it means that when you achieve that thing at the end, it has more gravitas, more importance to you, because A, not everybody could do it, but B, it means you have to be a good player to do it. And MMOs have become terrified, it feels like lately, of having gates to content that are based upon your ability or time. And I understand why, but I don't think that every game needs to be like that. I think it's good to have games that ask you to put in to know what you're doing to get somewhere. And but as long as you've got things for other people to do, if you're gonna just beat a game that said like Camelot Unchained, right? We're gonna be this game, and you have to be this kind of player to play it. If you're gonna be like that, and you say, right, this is gonna be about hardcore raiding, and that's it. If that's all you've got, fine, as long as you're upfront about it. But if not, Wildstar isn't doing that. What Wildstar's saying is, hey, we've got all this. Plus, if you don't want to be a hardcore raider, you've also got all this other stuff you can do as well. So we want to cater to these different types of players and make sure that we've got things that feel good, that are worth pursuing, that are fun to do, and will be satisfying.
But that is exactly the issue that you talk about. It's like if there is this thing that is really difficult and takes a long time to do, as a gamer, yeah, it's kind of neat to get there and to see it, but I kind of want some sort of reward for it too, other than just a little achievement that gives me 5
Sure.
achievement points, whatever I want. If I'm going to put that kind of effort into it, especially if I'm going to put repetitive effort into it, like raiding, we do it every week, 4 hours, whatever, I'm going to want to get something better for my character, and that's where you can run into some of the issue that if I do this, and if I'm ultra hardcore 1%, and I can get the greatest sword ever by raiding 8 hours a week, or 8 hours, or like 4 hours, 2 nights a week, and it's the only way I can do that, then the other person who's maybe in the 2%, is not quite as crazy as I am, still really hardcore, but is in that kind of sense, I get that they don't necessarily want to go quite to that level. We all have our limits. The guy who plays for like 8 hours a day thinks he's really hardcore, but if there's this other guy who plays for 10 hours a day and gets even better stuff, what is an 8 hour a day guy supposed to think then? So there's all levels of it, yeah.
It is, and I think from what I've seen in Wildstar so far, I think they've got a really nice, from the concept I've seen, they've got a really nice way of basically following, a really nice way of kind of answering that, in the raids change every week, so it's not a case of you just learn that raid for 3 months. You know what I mean? That one raid for 3 months, and you do the line dance, and then there you go. So the raids change every week, so you have to adapt. So you have to basically generate a skill set, an ability to do what the game asks you to do in different circumstances. And I think that's smart. And also what it does, it seems to reward you for not just the time you put in, but how well you do it each raid. So clearing it, you're going to get a reward for clearing it. But clearing it perfectly, you're going to get a better reward for it. Now, when it comes to having better gear for doing more than what you're at right now, again, that's a design choice. But to me, you should always have something to work towards in an MMO. So if you don't have an increasing value for the amount of effort that you put in, then eventually you come to a point that there's nothing to aspire to. And I don't actually think that that's a good thing in every MMO.
Yeah, I like that idea of it taking different skill each time as opposed to just doing it over and over. Because I think of when I was like a high-end raider in Lotro, it's like I rarely got a full set of gear for anything because it wasn't that I wasn't, I was skillful enough and my group was skillful enough to beat this raid. But after, 5, 6, 7, 8 times or whatever, you just don't want to do it anymore. So I like the notion that it's not just about mindless repetition, but about actually doing something a little different in each one. That sounds really cool.
Jeremy continued on by saying this. He said, solo PvEers, in my opinion, underserved in most MMOs, oddly as they are 65+% of the player base in most Western MMOs. Get more than rep grinds and dailies by having solo story dungeons released regularly. Dynamic PQ content, most to be revealed down the road. Big frequent updates, housing stuff, good trade skilling, and more. This 1,000 times this. That's 65. Yeah. I mean, sounds great. I mean, 65%, totally believable. Believable number that's the majority of the player base right there. And, what do they get normally? A fun leveling experience if they're lucky, and then maybe dailies and rep grinds. Yeah. Pretty much once you're done. That's pretty much all you have to look forward to if you're in that 65%.
Scott's dying, so I'll start talking for a while.
Sorry, I'll put that long back in later. I think how many times in how many different games have we said things like, wouldn't it be great if there was like a solo sort of, a solo quest for your class or a solo dungeon? I mean, I know in WoW the rogue epic quest line that everybody really liked, and we're hoping that they were going to spread it out to all of the classes, and they were looking to kind of do that, and then they didn't, and then they were going to do something along those lines for individual players, and that didn't quite happen with Mists. So I love the idea of them coming out with soloable dungeon content. That's fun. I mean, Neverwinter's having a great time with that sort of stuff right now. And a lot of people are doing basically that for hours at the moment.
Yeah.
And I think that he's right, that what most games have, you have a storyline and quests that build up, you hit max level, and then you do something that is just completely walking around in a circle every day, in perpetuity. And so having things that are a range of things to do, which is what Blizzard really smartened up about with Mr. Pandaria. Why Mr. Pandaria is doing so well, for me, is that they give you a lot of different things to actually do now at max level. And so if Wildstar can come out the gate with really strong raid content, really strong PvE solo content, and then good, strong PvP content, I mean, as I said, I say with what Jeremy Gaffney said, when I've interviewed Chad Moore before, when every time I hear something new about Wildstar and find out a new detail, I just like it more and more and more. And I just think it's really spot on, the attitude they've got with how they're going to look at the players and like sink into what kind of content they're going to develop for them, especially for endgame.
Don't think they're only going to focus on solo players. Of course, PvP is something that they're definitely paying attention to as well. So, yeah, this is as I said, PvPers, war plots, 40v40, player-built city versus city combat, and arenas. To oversummarize, group PvEers, dynamic raid content, weekly competitions for legendary gear, and more. Some to be revealed later. So
is this the first time we've actually heard confirmation? Because we've talked about this being a possibility. Like when we see all the war plots stuff, are we going to get to use our war plots to fight other war plots?
I think it's the first time we've actually. I don't know if we've actually seen anything before this. Actually, say city versus 40v40 player-built city versus city combat. We've all speculated on it. We saw the cannons that look like they're pointing at others.
For defensive purposes only.
You can build emplacements where you can eventually launch helicopters from to go and attack each other.
So, I don't know. But
I'll have some of that, please.
So before we get on the Wildstar hype bandwagon over here, like, everything sounds really good on paper. And like you said, I think now that they're opening up the faucet a little bit more and they're revealing more and more information, it's sounding really good. It's sounding really good.
Really good. I'll just interject and do a plug. Gareth Harmer Gazimov, who's in chat right now, he did a report from Arkship EU. Sorry, I'm dying. And he's got like hands-on with all sorts of PvP and everything else. And I think he equated it to looking like a disco floor with all of the different telegraphs down on the floor and all the different colours and everything else going off, and the greens and reds and everything. But like, I know two of our guys at Zamu played it, and they every time they play it, they like it more and more. So this is, I want to play it now because they make fun of me for the fact I haven't, and I'm not pleased about it. So people who've played it just say it feels good, it plays well, and the action combat really works a treat. So hopefully, with all these systems, and if it actually feels good as well all the way through, could be a bit special.
Sounding a little bit special.
This opens up entirely new ways for you to grief people, Gary. I think you should just ram your war plot into other people's war plots.
Yes. There you go.
Ramming speed.
All right, let's talk a little bit about Neverwinter. Neverwinter open beta has begun. I don't know, open beta, or I guess you could call soft launch. Soft launch.
Sure.
Free-to-play games pretty much do this. No character wipe at this point. So pretty much, what's the difference? The game is live, and up and running. They've had a bit of a rough week. With hardware, some server issues, some just downtime, things like that. But what are you guys thinking so far, Jason? You've been looking forward to this one for quite a while. Have you gotten some time to play, or you've been fighting the servers a bit this week?
A little bit of both, actually. Yeah, I have occasionally been disconnected at rude times. So, but yeah, when I've been in and been playing, it's been pretty fun. I mean, it's not fancy, I guess, is my thought of it. It is a fantasy game with a trinity. That's what it is. It doesn't necessarily have all the bells and whistles and pretty everything that I've kind of gotten used to in a game like Guild Wars 2, for instance. But I mean, so far it seems pretty solid. I've just run the one dungeon.
Well, what would give me your quick Jason Winter review, basically? What do you think it's actually lacking?
Like I said, well, for instance, we did the dungeon. We get to these boss fights, and it does this great little zoom in and pans in on the boss, puts a name down there, and he just kind of stands there looking all menacing. So again, with a lot of other games, not just Guild Wars 2, a lot of games I play, like I said, I talked about playing Lotro a lot. Of course, Old Republic has all the cutscenes, whatever. I kind of expected more. Like I expect the boss to taunt me, to say something, to be otherwise to be something that seemed to be more than just a big nasty orc. Because that's kind of the impression I get when I fight him. It's not like there's no real character there.
So you feel the AI and character is a little bit lacking, is what you're saying?
Yes.
Yeah, definitely. Like I said, just if Old Republic is like on this end of here's something, this end of here we have way too much story in our game. Neverwinter is kind of on this end, and we just don't quite have enough.
Now, on the other side, I got to say, the big thing, obviously, with Neverwinter is the Foundry, which, if you guys have not tried the game, it's basically giving the tools to the players to build their own content, their own quest lines, their own dungeons, their own boss fights, and all that kind of thing. And I think for most of the players who are really interested in this game, and especially for the ones who came over from games like Neverwinter Nights, which that was the core of that franchise, that's what they're waiting for more than anything, is actually having like your friends DM stuff and your friends create content and run through all that stuff. So how is it faring there? Have you done much of the Foundry stuff yet?
I did start a Foundry. Well, in terms of playing it, I have played, I don't know, probably about a dozen or so of them, of which half were good, half were kind of meh, or half of them looked like they could have been done by someone professional. The other half definitely looked amateurish a bit. This can be kind of hit and miss, as any user-generated content probably is, but you can find a lot of good stuff in there. And I've even seen in chat, like you talked about, I see people saying in chat, LFG, level 50, grinding Foundry. So people, they just do this probably for hours and hours. And some of the good stuff is almost better than some of the stuff that Perfect World has designed in some ways. In terms of, like I said, in terms of putting in the story and so on. And I've started making one of my own, which I've worked on for like a week. And I'm having a lot of fun just doing that and playing around with stuff. It's a really, really amazing tool to play around with. Even if you don't intend to do something, I'd suggest everyone just goes in, make just a simple room or something, just play around with moving stuff around, changing how stuff looks, and so on. It looks like it is going to be a lot of fun and be a real big deal for this game.
Scott, what do you think? We just finished up this whole conversation about endgame content, not having enough content, players burning through content, and we've seen a few other MMOs before give build tool sets into their game, but I think this is the first one that we've seen with some pretty big mainstream appeal. I mean, could this be the answer for the MMO? Is to not try and create all this PvE content for gamers up front and just give them the tool set, and let them do it?
It's certainly one of the answers. If you're not going to go a sandbox route, if you're not going to go actual sandbox, this is one of the answers that helps a great deal, because people who spent, is weirdly enough, people who used to love making their own storylines and stuff for Skyrim on mods, Neverwinter's basically that. Like the Foundry's basically that. So people who like Skyrim mods, the MMO for you is Neverwinter. But what I like about it is for other frustrated like narrative designers for gaming and people who are frustrated like pencil and paper role players who want to design their own things, it's great, and it's such a good hook for the game. And the fact they've had it so you can donate to people who make a good quest that's sensational. So you not only do you feel great because you've got to sit down and created your own piece, you've got to be creative within the game, and it's something that other players are going to experience. It's not just something like, it's not your own little bit of fan fiction that you stick in a cupboard and it goes to die forever. It's going to be out in the world. Other players are going to experience it. The other players are going to tell you if it's good or not. And other players will help you learn how to make better ones. You know, so you can learn how to do some good story. The ones that I've tried, I have to say, I mean, Jason says half and half. For player-generated content, for some kind of half and half to be good or bad, that's an amazing hit
That
rate.
is
in
that is
MMOs.
that is
That's
like
an incredible hit
think
rate.
about
Because
like
usually
something like
it's
YouTube and the amount of
99%.
crap. Yeah, it's like 90-something% of the YouTube
It's
content
usually
is totally
90,
terrible.
and MMOs too. It's 90-something% versus 5 or 6% good. So to have that higher rate of things that not just being real quality, but just playable, is great. And I know some of the ones, some of the more featured ones, some of the writing is excellent, like really well done, really engaging story. Take your time reading this stuff, but also basically the Foundry quests. If you want to level, Foundry, like the amount, it's just XP heaven. Given working your way through with the Foundry, then the PvP skirmishes just underneath.
I don't talk about
leveling.
PvP. Yeah, don't talk about the PvP.
We don't talk about the CC and PvP anymore.
Definitely the best thing about Neverwinter, all this stuff. It's I gotta say, for a free-to-play MMO, it really, really, really offers a lot. So definitely check out Neverwinter now. Basically, soft launch, open beta, whatever you want to call it. But hopefully, they're over their server issues from this week, and everybody can get on to creating some more Foundry stuff in games. All right, let's do some quick viewer questions and get the heck out of here. Really quick, I want to tell you guys about Netflix. Go over to netflix.com/GameBreakerTV. You can sign up for a free 30-day trial today. And I don't know if you guys have known, but Netflix is actually creating their own content these days. Shows like Hemlock Grove, which is now available on Netflix. It's an original series getting great reviews. And don't forget Arrested Development coming back in May. Arrested Development only on Netflix. Only on Netflix coming back. And you can actually catch up on all the old episodes of Arrested Development right now. So if you have not tried it out, go over to netflix.com/GameBreakerTV. Just sign up for an account. It's really super easy. And you install the app on your phone or your Xbox or wherever you want to watch it. And you're going to be watching Hemlock Grove or Arrested Development, wherever you want tonight. And check it out. Netflix.com/GameBreakerTV. All right, first up this week, this question from Paul Watkins. He says, why does every MMO company have to try and remake WoW? Let's have one without raids.
Yeah. I want one MMO without raids.
Just one.
EVE Online, Guild Wars 2, Neverwinter.
I just want one, Scott.
Just one.
Okay, there's 4.
See, we have 3. That's the problem. He only wants one.
He only wants one.
Okay, so we need to kill 3 of them. All right, that's what we need to do. I understand that, but to me, remaking WoW isn't about remaking WoW. You're not trying to remake WoW if you have raids in your game, because raids have been around since before WoW for a start. So
long before.
Long before WoW. So you don't have to do the same systems the same way as World of Warcraft did. And so if you have systems that can be labeled the same thing, doesn't mean that it's the same thing. They don't have to be, even though many games have done them the same way. And those are games that have tried to recreate WoW, and that's a mistake. So hopefully we'll start seeing games that do. But there's plenty of games there that don't have raids.
But unquestionably, what you do need after people have gotten to max level, or as your end game, or whatever, elder game, whatever you want to call it, you need something. There has to be something there to do that's beyond the leveling and probably beyond the basic dungeon running. Now, whether that's a raid, which when we get around to it, a raid is just, it's a dungeon with more people. I mean, we talked about having solo, having stuff for people to do with solo at end game. Then that's like a raid is to a regular group what a group instance is to a solo instance. It's basically the same thing. They just choose to make the bosses bigger, or more fire, or more circles on the ground, or whatever. So you don't need to do that necessarily. I think that people are finding there are at least a few other possibilities out there, and I hope that we do find more ways to go in the future.
Camelot Unchained. Next up, from Don Baker. Don Baker says, do you think CCP will be happy with another hardcore niche for World of Darkness? Or do you think they'll want to make it more accessible and fun for the less hardcore player? What do you think, Jason? What do you think, Jason?
No, I can't. CCP is certainly the one MMO company I can't see ever making a mass market, millions of players kind of MMO. That just doesn't seem their thing. I mean, the closest maybe they'll get is something like Dust, which maybe draws in the shooter crowd who don't really care about EVE, but they just see that just isn't. I just don't think that's their thing.
What do you think, Scott?
I think that Eve is a game that's been out for 10 years. From today, it's been going for 10 years.
Oh, yes. Is this today?
It's
isn't
grown 10 years
Happy
today.
birthday
Yes.
to
Wow.
you.
Seriously, happy birthday, CCP.
Don't
and Eve.
steal all my stuff. So it's been around for 10 years. It's grown every year. It's made hundreds of millions of dollars for the company. It's still got a strong audience, and it's growing, and it's going to be blossoming out into other opportunities for IP and so on. If they can do the same for World of Darkness, they will have a great big bloody grin on their face. So I don't think they're too worried about doing something that's mainstream.
Jason Winter, follow him on the Twitter at Winter Informal. Winter Informal. Jason
Speaking
Winter.
of birthdays, it's also my brother's birthday today. He turns 50.
There you go.
Happy
Join
birthday.
us. Happy birthday to your brother, Mr. Winter Brother Informal. And Scott Hawks, editor-in-chief over at Zam.com. Follow him on Twitter at Jarimor, Jarimor. And of course, go over to Zam.com. Go over to Zam.com. You can follow me at Gamebreaker, Gary Gannon, or Gamebreaker TV, one or the other. I know we said we're going to talk about some Defiance today, but time is cut short. We'll talk about that on next week in MMO when we're actually in the right week. So have a great week. Thank you so much for watching This Week in MMO, and we'll see you next week.